All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're talking about the art of unpacking. I want to welcome everyone home. You know, I always like to start with a little welcome home. And home is that safe and amazing place of opening, of awakening, and of creating. Home is where our heart and our mind share and communicate freely with one another. Home is where we choose and remember and experience our own healing and our growth. Home is a place of filling the well, of chopping the wood and carrying the water. It is a place of remembering who we are and who we were and knowing who we are becoming. It is a place of creating that life that we love. So welcome home here with us today. Welcome home, every one of you. Thank you for being with us as always. Once again, we're recording today. We're recording our episode for our purposes and yours. So with that in mind, please, everyone, if you'd be so kind, keep your mics on mute unless you're speaking, of course. And if you don't want to be called on when we open the circle, go ahead and just keep your camera off and then we'll know not to call on you if that's what you prefer, just so you know. But of course, we do want to hear from you. We want you to participate. And so keep that in mind as well as when we open the circle, jump right in with us. We want to hear from you. I want to welcome my co-hosts with Let's Talk, my friends, my dear ones, my mirrors and my love. First of all, Sarah Lockhart. Hi, Sarah. Say hi.
Hi, Corey. It's lovely to be here. I'm loving Let's Talk and the art of unpacking. I'm excited about this one. Thanks.
Right on, Sarah. And then, of course, we've got Laura McDonald-Flint in the house. Say hi. Say hi, Laura.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So glad you're here.
Right on. Well, thank you, Laura and Sarah, for creating this with me. I want to let you all know that we've got people from all over the globe with us, like we do every week. And I so appreciate that we have a world impact like that and that you show up for us. There are magnetic mind coaches in the room with us. So love that. We've got people, clients who are seeking coaching, working with coaches, working on that perspective of the world. Welcome. We've got returning guests and some fans and some VIPs that come and follow us around. We love you too. And of course, people joining us for the very first time. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for returning. Thank you for sharing yourselves with us today. You are all very welcome here. Welcome home, one and all. Unpacking. What the heck is unpacking? In this world of coaching, we use that word a lot. In working and digging and revealing and figuring it out. And so, of course, I went right to Merriam-Webster dictionary. There's a couple of definitions I found right there. First one, to explain or examine something in order to make its meaning clearer. Unpack number two, to remove the contents of, like a suitcase. And the third one, to analyze the nature of something by examining in detail. To explicate, unpack a concept. Now that's kind of where we're going here. So unpacking. Questions. Unpacking is all about questions. So questions imply that we want to know things about each other. We want to know you. We want to know what's important to you. We want to know what got you here. So doing the asking is a place of listening. When you're asking the questions, you're inquiring, you want to know, you're setting the stage for the answer to be revealed. Doing the unpacking, the answering of the questions, now this is the place of discovery. This is the aha moments, the unveiling, the digging deeper, finding out more information. So in this conversation today, we're speaking to you from a place of this discovery. It's a place of using questions to unpack this rich information about ourselves. Those of you that are here that are clients working with a coach, or perhaps you are considering working with a coach, this will be a good example today of the journey into your own story using the power of questions. You as the one answering these questions will be doing that unpacking, doing the work of discovery, the knowing the details of your story in a much richer detail. That's what the coaching journey is about. Those of you in the room that are coaches, right? You're looking at this from the coach perspective. You will see the power of holding the conversation on track by using the power of questions to go bigger, to go deeper, to unveil the bigger ideas, and to identify the obstacles, to find the resistance in the way of achieving these clients' goals and their objectives. So today we're speaking to both of these perspectives, of the perspective of that of the client and the perspective of that of the coach. It's both here today. So let me help you with your bags, right? I love that. So I'm going to quote here from Dr. Carrie Ulrich. She's a coach and she's written some really great articles. She's findable online. Her quote is, as coaches, it is not easy to help clients unpack their baggage as it does take an emotional toll on us. We cannot help others if we haven't unpacked our own bags. We need to model that behavior and explain the why behind our motivations, our traits, our modus operandi. If we are not ready to unpack our baggage and own what is inside, then we won't be able to help our clients do just that. That's an awesome quote. Coaches doing the work, knowing the work, representing the work, and then guiding the work. So these are a few lessons that I've learned and how I've helped my clients unpack. Right? There's a whole bunch of this coming right up. There's a whole pile of questions in what we're about to do here, lists and lists of questions to give you these examples. So today I want you to listen to these questions more than answer the questions. I want you to get the feel of the depth, the breadth of information, the wideness of the information and wisdom in asking questions. Here we are, a shining light of what unpacking questions can do to enlighten us on our path of self-discovery and this potential to change. So I want to start with these 12 probing questions. I found these in some beginning coaching manuals and like the how-to and where to begin places. So these 12, let's start here. First one, what would you like to talk about today? Another one. Okay, what else is important to that discussion? What feelings do you have about this? Who are the other players in this? How are they involved? What do you want? What is the objective here? What do you gain from this? And what do you give it? Can you give me some concrete examples of this or that, or how it applies to? And what did you mean when you said ... What was the most significant thing about this situation to you? Okay, now give me some background. What led you to this? What set it up for this to happen? What got you here? What excited you about this? What holds you back? And what is your heart saying now?
I
Sarah.
love that, Corey. I love all of these ways of asking all of these different questions. But when we're talking about unpacking, why are we asking unpacking questions? Why is our intent to unpack? What even is that, right? So the questions hold the power to cause someone to think. So it holds the power in causing us to create the answers we believe in and motivate us to take the action on our ideas. So asking the deeper question moves us beyond passively accepting the advice of others and staying stuck to aggressively applying our creative ability to what we are changing. So when we ask the right questions, it's no longer talking at or stating the obvious. It's inspiring the client, the coachee. And when we're asked the right questions, we get inspired to really come up with what we really believe in. It gives it teeth, right?
Mhm.
So if you notice questions just in general, they define relationships. You notice the way questions get asked. So like in a conversation with a boss, a leader, a mentor, or a consultant, those conversations can suggest they're in a place of superiority in knowledge or position for you. And that can feel and be very one-sided. So asking questions about other people's feelings and ideas will honor the other person as a person and communicate their value as an equal. So asking open-ended questions invites thought and imagination to enter into the game. When two people are in conversation, using conversational generosity, asking questions is less about your own thoughts and more about listening deeply to the other person. So you decrease what you're saying, really listen. It increases what the other person will say. And that's where your magic happens. So the more you listen, the more you see how capable they are and how much they can do with some encouragement and what wonderful people they really are. The more you ask, the more you love them. So all of the information is with the unpacker. So who's the unpacker? Nobody knows more about you than you. You store all the memories. You are your own expert. Answering the questions, revealing deeper layers, growing your awareness of your own journey, knowing what made you, what got you here, what is important now. That's the place that you make a really big transformation. So the role of a coach is to hold that mirror up, like Corey says, the cosmic mirror. The role of the client is to look into that mirror and see those details where maybe they were a little hard to see before. So asking questions creates this emotional buy-in, this emotional investment. The feeling of not knowing what to do is what gets people searching. I don't even know. I don't know what to do. So we want to get them motivated to activate change. And being motivated to activate change, the research shows, is always, always more powerful when you're carrying out your own ideas and solutions. Because we don't want other people to tell us. We want to be honored for the knowledge and the expert we are on our own lives, and we want help organizing our own thoughts. We want help to see for ourselves. So a coach holding up that mirror helps us see for ourselves. And then we're not being told, it just becomes obvious, right? So what that means, maybe a less optimal solution comes up that has bigger answers, then the coach might have an idea. Great, perfect solution. I've got the perfect solution for you. That's not the coach's job. So maybe the person, the client getting coached, comes up with a different, maybe it's not as optimal, but they're invested in it. It was their idea. And so it's more.
Sarah, one of those things, along those lines, I love to work on, like in show business, like working on a team, the idea of, if I let you think you thought it up, you're going to own it and run with it way more than if I told you what to do.
And how that works with kids.
That's what we're talking about right here, is like when you think it up and it occurs to you, your own solution, your own inspiration, you get your own idea, it's yours, and then you're motivated. And that's the buy-in that we're talking about. Now
Everybody knows that's true. Everybody knows that's true. People will go with what they came up with. Everybody likes going with their own idea. Right. And we know that is where the power is. That is where the change happens. That's where somebody's willing to do what it takes because it's theirs. They own it. They're taking responsibility for it. They take action on it because it's theirs. Yeah. People don't take great action on other people's stuff. They just don't. So asking empowers. Yeah. Okay. Self-confidence, huge factor in making change. People already know what decision they're being asked to make, but they haven't committed to it yet. They often already know what needs to be done, but maybe they're unsure how to move forward. So when you ask for people's opinions and thoughts and you take them seriously, you're sending them a powerful message. Asking good questions can empower them to do the things that they maybe couldn't do on their own, or maybe they thought they couldn't do on their own, or they thought they didn't know. So asking the right questions and just showing somebody, that can develop like a leadership capacity, because leadership is the ability to take responsibility, to own something. So a leader sees something that needs attention and moves to take action. Simply saying, what can I do about that? That's a good place to be. Asking others, what can you do about that? Moves people away from depending on your answers towards taking responsibility and leadership in the situation all on their own. So asking will develop that leadership capacity. It also creates authenticity. So we all want to be known and recognized and loved.
Yeah.
So there is no
Yeah.
greater gift than having someone really see you and value you for it.
Yeah.
But just to be seen, like when people say, like, they really get me, they get it. It's that get that we're talking about. That's the connection. That's the emotional buy-in. That's when that understanding can grow. And when you can say, I see you, I see the situation, and a coach will guide with those questions. What's the next step? What's important? What are you noticing? What matters to you here? And appreciating that other people's perspectives don't matter as much as the client sitting in front of you. It's their perspective that matters. It's their life. It's their wishes, their wants, their dreams. So the art of asking question creates this connection, this bond between us, because in the asking of the questions, we're valuing one another by listening and by sharing. So taking the time to ask those big, significant, maybe difficult questions, and really deeply listening to those answers. That communicates that we really want to know. Asking is the quickest way to build trust and rapport with transparency and vulnerability between people. So when we talk about things that we really care about, we make really transformational changes. So Rudyard Kipling, Jungle Book guy, he said, I keep 6 honest serving men. Taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who.
Bravo.
Oh my goodness, I love that so much. I love
Good
that.
team. That's an awesome team.
I know. You know why I love working with you two so much? Because you get me. When you said get them, that's just so significant, right? So where do you start with these questions? I think we all know that when you're just getting to know someone, you don't just blast out really personal questions, right? So you start with icebreakers, right? When you meet someone for the first time, an icebreaker is good for melting or softening that first impression. So we start with questions that are familiar and that most people would be comfortable. And then we ask a question that makes the conversation just a little more intimate, right? Just easing in. So you can ask, how are you today? And, when the other person, a client, a friend, coworker says fine or good, you can follow up with what makes today a fine day? What is it about today that makes it fine? You can ask, what do you do for a living? And then what do you like best about your job? Just dig in a little. What is something memorable about you that I can remember you by? That's
Love that.
asking who you are, right? A little bit. Tell me a little bit about who you are.
You know
Tell
what,
me a little-
Lara?
Yeah.
I'm listening to this and I just need to kind of get the highlighter pen out on something.
Get the highlighter pen out, Sarah.
This, don't recite questions. We
Mhm.
ask questions because we want to know. So when you say, how are you today? You gotta want to know. How is that person today? You want, like, care about the answer. It's not just
Yeah.
reciting a
Yeah.
question.
It's
Mhm.
so absolutely important. I mean, how often are you in a conversation with somebody, whether you're being interviewed or anything where you just know they're reading a list of questions. It's just obligatory, right? And you
Yeah.
feel that, you know the difference, right?
I love that question about, hey, tell me something that I will remember you by.
I love that too. I do.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
yep. And it's, just digging in a little bit into that personal, connection, right? So you can ask, where are you from? And what's been your very, very favorite place to live? Where have you traveled, and what's your favorite place? Where's your favorite destination? Or tell me a memory about your favorite memory about that place. What brings you here today? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say these little icebreaker questions are that melting, that softening of that first impression. I love it when you said that, because, it's like, okay, who are we? What are we doing here? Who's this new person? There's so many people on the planet. What made all of a sudden this is special? All of a sudden you're standing out, you're in the light, you caught my attention. What's going to keep me in this attention? Now you've caught that attention. Now what do we do? Where do we go from here?
Right. Well, then we move into, more significant questions. These go a little deeper than icebreakers, right? So significant questions make people think about something that's important. They draw out a person's identity and touch on some deeper desires. So this is an excellent way to begin a conversation, whether as a coach, friends, or at work. You can ask things like, what is the most significant thing that happened in your life in the last month, the last week, the last year? What is the best thing about your life right now? Love that question. So, it's not expected. What is the one thing you would absolutely love to create? This is one of my favorite questions. And, obviously we ask that question a lot in this world. Yep. I'm going to ask it again. What is the one thing that you would absolutely love to create that you don't already have? Love that question. Let's see. Hold on just a second here. I lost you guys. I'm just going to try to get my picture back.
Lara, when we're talking about these icebreakers or these significant questions, I love noticing that we go from being curious with some just overview questions with curiosity. Now I'm interested. I'm going to ask a more interested question around that thing I was curious about, this person I was curious about. It goes from being curious to interested, and then intrigued.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that.
And I just love those layers as you engage in those conversations and ask these questions, but going deeper and going deeper.
Right.
I think it's what we do.
Well, so now we're at this place now where we've got to know each other, and now we've asked some better, more interesting questions that would leave a mark on our soul. Okay, well, why are we here? Now, if this is a coach and client situation, for example, now there's a structure about why you're in a conversation, right? If you're lovers, there's a structure about being in a conversation. If you're family members, elder and child, that's a different structure. But now we're getting into some specific, more pointed questions to actually go down the journey together, right? So this little getting to know each other section, now let's get it more personal, right? So this next little section of questions, this next ones are around identity. Who are we and why are we here? For example, hey, so tell me a story of your life that would give me a picture of who you really are. Wow, what a great question to answer. Another one. What is an event that has totally shaped you as a person? What has been the most interesting spiritual encounter that you've had in your life? Tell me about someone that has helped you become the person that you are today. Who has really influenced your life right here, right now? And this is a good one. If you could go back in time and meet and know any historical figure, who would they be and why? You can now name 2 or 3 of your strengths. What are you good at? What are you really great at, right? And that's good. Okay, now we're getting into some positivity, some pride moments. Let's get into what you want. What do you desire? Okay, so what do you dream about? What is your dream? Have you been doing your dreaming? If you could do anything with your life, what would it be? What do you really want these days? What are you passionately pursuing or longing for? Oh, I love that word, longing. Oh, I'm pining over something. It has my attention. I want it so bad. What would that be? If one burden could be removed from you today, what would that be? And how would that feel to be lighter from that burden? If you had unlimited resources, what would you want to do most with those resources? What is your greatest joy right now? What is your greatest fear and your greatest challenge? So now we're getting a sense of asking these big questions with these open-ended possibilities. There's lots of thinking, lots of inviting information here. So now with a coach and a client relationship, you're getting to know one another in a set container, right? With safety, with rapport and vulnerability and encouragement, accountability. Now, this is where obtaining results becomes important. So now we're getting to know a client. Okay, now we're going to talk, I want to talk about a client getting to know a coach getting to know a client. This applies to both of these perspectives. So how do you meet to have this journey, right? So when we as coaches are welcoming new clients or coachees, as I like, that's a new word for us, we're using coachee. We want to create that safe and friendly place where trust and rapport can happen quickly, right? We want to know why the client is seeking our services. So here's a bunch of questions around that first contact, like, why are we here? What's going on? These are geared towards setting the stage for the coach and the coachee to begin that journey together. So some of these are around life purpose. Like, so tell me about your life purpose. What were you made to do? What is the gift that you're here to bring? Right? So now we're asking about pride moments and passion and love. How well do your current roles in your life fit or not fit with what you see as your purpose and your natural strengths? Where are you in alignment? Where are you not in alignment? What are some of the important dreams that you would like to pursue in the next few years? Goals, true choices, desires, wants, and results. Let's look at values, because values show us where our behaviors are, values and our priorities. So what is most important to you in your life? What's most important to you in your business? What's most important to you around money? And why do you care about those things? So this little list of 8 things has come up, and we want to ask good questions about these 8 things. What do you care most about your career? What do you care most about your family and your relationships? What do you care most about your health and vitality? What do you care most about finances and money? What do you care most about spirituality? What do you care most about your own personal development? Where are you on the path and how much do you know? What do you care most about recreation and rest and playtime? And what do you care most about your environment? Where do you live? Where do you work? How does it help you? How does it not help you? In some of the above, what are your most fundamental values that base the decisions on these things? And now we're digging around why you do what you do. So what is your priority now? How do you feel about the behavior you're making? How do you feel about the behavior you wish you were making? So some of these short-term objectives here around the areas of your life that you most want to work on or pay attention to, right? There's starting to be a reveal. The coach is now going, oh, that's what we're working on. That's the emotional place that we're starting on. That's where we're at right now. Another set of questions, okay, as a coach, I would want to know from a client, how much self-knowledge, how much self-awareness, where are you on your journey to be self-aware? So have you taken any personality tests like DISC or the Myers-Briggs or the Strengths Finder system or an Enneagram or anything else? There's so many. And what were those results? What did you discover about yourself in these examinations that was meaningful, right? So let's list 5 of these strengths about you that you're proud about. Let's list 3 weaknesses, perhaps, where you don't feel so good. What is the best thing about you? What are 5 things that you love about yourself? What major changes have taken place in your life in the last 6 months? What got you here, right? So now let's ask about some needs. And I'm going to say these things from the client's perspective, all right? So I'm going to ask the client, finish this sentence as the client. Right now, I feel the greatest sense and need for blank. The problems or challenges I most want to overcome right now are, here's a list. The things that sap my energy and that I want most to remove from my life are these things. The place I feel stuck is here, right? Okay, the coaching agenda. What are we going to do about this? Also from the client's perspective, let's fill in these sentences from the client. I want to explore these possibilities in our first few sessions. I want to begin here. This is what makes sense to me. This is what got me in the door. I want to build and increase these strengths and skills that I know I have. I want to make them bigger. They're useful. I see I need them. The tangible outcome that I want from being coached is this, what I want. Why am I here? Again, what's the end result? The true choices. I want to be challenged and grow in these areas. I know that this is hard for me and I see it's worth it to give my gift here. Help me here. I want to change my thinking patterns or beliefs around these things. And what I most desire from my coach is this. How can we help you the most? We're going to ask some of those questions because one, we want to know what you expect as a client and also as the coach, how that we can be successful for you. So now we're asking some really digging questions about the journey of coaching, the journey of accountability, the journey of that transparency, that sacred dance of the asking of the question to listen and the unpacking of those answers so that we can access that power to transform. Once that relationship has been started with a container, that safety, that safe container is there. The groundwork is now in place to go even bigger, to do even bigger work.
Right. It's Corey, we're talking about starting this relationship and the communication between a coach and client. And as coaches, we need to communicate that we care, that we want to understand, that we value the opinion and the point of view and the place where the client is at. We want to ask all of these questions. And so we want to gain the understanding, but we also want to communicate our care and our willingness to want to work with somebody towards their goal.
Yes.
So these are it's not that you can necessarily get it wrong. When the intention is there, how can I help? How can I help you today? What is happening for you today? When you really care about these answers that are coming back, you're really internalizing what you're hearing and you're connecting with your client or you're connecting with your coach. And you understand that they do care and you have that rapport and trust building. Let's not make the big 10 mistakes. Like there's
For
a
the
big
big
10
10.
here. What do
Right.
you not want to ask?
So let's talk about, I want to just talk
So,
about these
number
10
one.
mistakes for a sec. Let me jump in for a sec, Sarah.
Jump in,
Yeah.
Corey.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I found this list and about what not to do. And it's not about what not to ask, but it's about being aware of the power of questions, right? And I think as we go through these, we can all find ourselves in these stories, but once again, we're joking about what not to do, but really we're telling you what you can and what you get to do here.
It is totally all around the awareness of what the intention is. And so you don't want to put your foot in it, or everybody knows what it's like when somebody throws a question at them. And I mean throws, and you're like, oh, you didn't just go there. Oh, we're not going there. You're not willing to follow that conversation down that road because it wasn't introduced respectfully, gently, and with any understanding that maybe that's a tough turn to take for this person.
Yeah.
So that whole, that defensiveness, that, oh, you didn't go there. So we are aware that that can happen. So let me highlight a few. I'm going to highlight my top one. Don't ask closed questions.
Right.
So a closed question, that's like a one-stop dead end. And you hear it in conversation. That question's not going to get you anywhere. Or answering that, what's that going to give you? It's going to give you a yes or a no is what it's going to give you.
And that's it.
And how does that grow anything? It's a yes or a no and it's over. So it's not the best use of presenting and requesting that understanding. You can have an open-ended question. And there's two key benefits of an open question. They let the coachee direct the conversation, gives them power to direct and take it where they want the conversation to go. And they make the coachee think more by eliciting a more considered or a longer answer. So I'll give you an example of a closed question. Coach asks a closed question. Can you really take all that on?
Yes, no.
Yep, I can.
Or no fucking way.
You don't get anywhere, Or no, I don't know. Right?
Yep.
Or I'm not answering that.
With that same an example of an open way to engage in that same arena would be to say, how would your life change when you take that on?
Wow.
I love that.
Now
that's a whole different energy.
We just went into the world of ponder and wander with that question.
Right? It's very
exactly.
invitational. It's very engaging. And people who ask open, engaging questions, I mean, that's even a character trait, to be engaging. And you want to invite that exchange because as coaches, we are looking and seeking to understand and help. So that's my top one. No closed questions. Try to avoid.
Okay, what else not to do? I've got one. Be careful of solution-oriented questions. So, yeah.
I know what to do.
Right, I know. So this is a piece of advice that comes along with a question mark. We want to tell the client the answer. So we give our answer in the form of a question. So an example of a solution-oriented question would be, shouldn't you be checking with your spouse before you do that? So that's what I think is the right thing to do. I've been known to use this kind of questioning with my son for sure, because I have the solution, right? So I'm going to give you a clue that lets you know that you're asking a solution-oriented question. Okay, so if should you, could you, will you, don't you, can you, are you? Or in your questions, you might check to see where the true solution really is, with you or with the client. So.
Right. Exactly. The power of suggestion here showing up as a question. Wow. Thanks for that, Laura.
Right. I love noticing where is the answer. And if you ask a question and you believe you already have the answer, it doesn't matter how you ask the question, it's going to come out like exactly that.
It will.
But if you genuinely are, if you genuinely know and understand that the solution lies with the client, then you're going to ask for that to be coming back to you.
Right.
Yeah. Phrasing, man.
So the third one I've got here is, is there is no true one powerful magic question, and when working with a lot of younger coaches who are learning the power of the open-ended question, I've seen that there's a lot of seeking, like, ooh, I need the magic, the good one, the magic question, right? And the focus is on finding the question as opposed to listening, really listening. There is no single magic pill or secret question to ask that will unblock these deep secrets of the universe for the client. That's just not the way it happens. There can be a pause in the conversation when we are seeking for the next magic key to unlock the mind, right? But sometimes if we're not ready, like, oh my God, I don't have the question. Now as the coach, I'm thinking about process and I'm thinking about holding the thing and I am no longer listening. And then now I'm busy being a good coach. And all of a sudden the listening went out the window. Now this momentum is lost. The conversation has stopped. The energy in the room has shifted, right? However, when you're listening, right, the next most amazing question comes from your intuition. It comes from being in the moment, in the room. So it's not the perfect question that makes the difference. It's trusting the process and really listening. Digging deeper and seeking more information from the client is the key here. The secret sauce, the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's the tell me more question. It's the, what else is important? Or expand on that. Or, hey, okay, well, what's going on here? What's going on even more? What made that? You dig a little deeper in the moment, right?
Right. It's like these questions are the dance moves. When you are dancing, there's all kinds of different ways to go. There's no one right way, but having those options and knowing what direction what big picture looks like for the client, those questions. And yeah, looking for what question should I ask here? Or I've got a list of questions. Reciting questions doesn't build the kind of back and forth that we're looking for, the kind of rapport, the kind of understanding and engagement. But okay, my other one, I don't recommend.
Yeah.
I don't recommend rambling questions. So
I'm a rambling questioner.
I do it too.
Right here.
Yeah, but this is asking the same question in many ways, stringing together many. Hang on a second. I wrote this and I'm looking at this rambling question thing, and it's like, I do it all the time. And it's, if you can catch yourself, that's, there's a good step. So there's on my lenses, catch myself. So if you string together a lot of different nuances or potential answers, and you're like, and it just kind of roams around, it can get really confusing, and then you lose the conversation. So it's when you lose your focus. The solution here is to think, then ask. So silence is it's a really good thing when a question is being used to ponder. So you can actually introduce that. If you need a minute to really think about that, you can just say, let me think about that. Okay. And give yourself some space.
Or ask the client, take a moment. Client, I'm going to give you a minute to think about this. Yeah.
right? Now, on the flip side, silence is troublesome when there's no clear path. So if you don't make it clear that, okay, we're going to pause and tie my shoe here for a second, just a minute. Let me think that through. But if you just stop and you're silent, then there's no clear path. The other person in conversation is like, okay, what's happening here? So taking a moment to form an excellent question can be really powerful. And asking a question to reveal what you're trying to ask. I'm going to read that again.
Yeah.
Asking a question.
Mhm.
Asking a question in order to reveal what you're trying to ask is clumsy and distracting.
Exactly.
So as coaches, we're not going to verbally roam around until the question comes to us. We should take that moment and say, okay, and give yourself that space to formulate a question that doesn't ramble and lead you around in circles for a bit.
Yeah.
So no rambling questions if you can help it.
Right.
Be aware.
In one of the next ones, when we talk about interrupting, we're going to talk about when the client rambles a little bit as a way to search for an answer. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too, but I just wanted to throw a little shade on that right this second. But number 5.
Yeah, that's different. That's
different. It's different. Yeah. But so the number 5, this one is interpretive questions. Now, and what's an interpretive question? These are questions that are made through an assumption about something that we don't really know about. Like, so now an example of this would be, say a client comes walking in and they're sitting down and they're talking about being tired and frustrated and confused about a relationship that they are having at work. So this interpretive question could be something like, how long have you hated your job? Right? Now the client has not said anything about hating their job. And now they could be triggered in a completely different direction than where they were trying to go in this conversation. So now there was an interpretation about something that wasn't in the room. So now the solution here, especially as a coach or engaging with other people, this isn't just coaching client, this is good human skills, is to use their words, right? To stay in their story and to ask about exactly what they're bringing to the table. Unpack the story from them. Once again, it comes back to, are you listening? How big are you listening?
Right? Use their words. Stay in their story. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't make assumptions. These things are, yeah, they're human skills.
Mm-hmm.
But
yes, they are.
Being aware and conscious. I mean, we're all about super conscious. We're all about mindfulness. Be mindful when you're engaging with someone else. If you want to know, if you are interested, if you are intrigued, then get into what they're saying with their words and their story. And that takes us to
number
rhetorical
6.
questions.
Oh, mistake number 6.
Let's not do rhetorical questions, shall we? Even posed as a question, rhetorical questions are actually statements. Like, do we have to really be talking about this?
Right.
They're actually statements, often judgmental and emotional, and they're about your own opinions.
Oh boy, now we're digging it up.
Ooh,
there it
Examples.
is. Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking?
Right. Oh.
Are you really going to throw away years of work for that? Isn't that just a cop-out?
Oh. Oh.
I know, right?
Wouldn't you rather just settle for this and stay?
Oh, rather just settle. Kill me now.
Right.
There's some good coaching.
So, you know, notice those are not questions.
Mm-mm.
Don't go down the little garden path of thinking you're asking anything productive there. You're not. You're pontificating, you're offering an opinion, you're judging, you're totally in your ego. if you're talking like that to a client, or clients talking like that to, if anybody's talking like that,
You know, Sarah, that makes me
yeah.
that makes me ask the question, how fun is it to be right? Right. Yeah. Oh.
Right.
Pause.
So
Mhm.
when we're talking about these rhetorical questions, they are dripping with opinion and attitude and judgment and superiority and that pontification, preaching.
Preaching. Yeah.
It's just notice they are not questions. So check your attitude. I lovingly invite you to check your attitude.
Yeah.
Are you in judgment about something, and why does it matter? Is focusing on the negative in another person serving you or them?
Right.
Check the point of view that you're,
Yeah.
watch your perspective. Just do that quick, we've got those different perceptual shift exercises, but you could we say it all the time, take a step back. Let's take a look at this. Do that. Check your point of view. Check your point of view. Check their point of view. If you catch yourself asking rhetorical questions or thinking of them, taking a little moment, taking a little self-check and noticing what's going on there will go a long way to not damaging your rapport and maybe get you down a path of building trust, understanding, and rapport with the client coach relationship or with anyone.
All right. Now
So
here's
that's, rhetorical questions.
this last suggestion here. Like when you catch yourself in that rhetorical question, like this last suggestion, what do you do for
Right.
yourself? This is the homework you do on your own. This next thing right there.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot here, guys.
Mhm.
I'm going to be having my awareness heightened. The next one I've got here is leading questions.
Well, wait a minute. I want to finish that thought with Sarah. That last thing is
But we have constructing scenarios.
Yeah, this is it.
We-
What do you do about that?
When the client's point of view is more important than yours, come up with why their point of view is more important than yours.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how a bystander sees someone else's life for their experience to be different. Your point of view is not going to change or transform their life.
Mm-mm. No.
Their point of view is more important than yours. So you need to explore and get in their shoes, come up with scenarios to help keep your ego in check, tone down the judgment, tone down. You don't know everything. You're not living this life. It's not you.
So here's that
come up-
reminder. Yeah, the reminder we're being in service. As coaches, we're in service to our clients. So sometimes when we are judgmental and we think we have the right answer and here's the shortcut, but it's not jiving with our client. It's their point of view that really we're in service to. We're showing up for them.
And that frustration happens, and it's like, I wish I could just say, but why do you wish you could just say? And why are you like sliding it in with rhetorical questions? You're not wishing you could just say. You're
Yeah. So
there's and when something's close to home, maybe the situation's a little bit close to your own personal experience, just keeping that perspective and remembering that we're looking at the client's point of view.
Yeah.
We're looking at why their point of view, their life experience, that's why a client is coming to a coach, and a coach is in service when they are making an effort to see the point of view and to offer the questions and the help to guide conversation and understanding and action steps in the direction that the client is looking for. Okay, I could go on about those for a bit.
No,
Scott.
you made a really good point there, Sarah, about how in any situation, when you have been in something that has some similarity to whether it's someone you're coaching or just a friend, your child, it's very easy to just think that your solution will be theirs. And it's really important to remember the uniqueness of each person and each situation, and that the answers will come, really, our answers only come from us, right? So
Okay, one last thing, and I promise I'll let go of,
I love these one last things.
Rhetorical questions are triggering, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm good.
We're saying that, you know, there's, if it's kind of close in it's important to remember that their experience is not your experience. It's not the same. Remember that our brains distort, generalize, and delete, and your mind is going immediately to, it's just like that time that happened to me. It's not. It's not at all.
Good point.
And any time that it crosses your mind, if you get any little sniff that maybe I'm projecting, you are.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm projecting, but no, just stop there. There's a strong likelihood you are. Let's take that pause and let's reframe questions.
Well, and projecting, there's the bridge to get to mistake number 7.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So leading questions subtly point the coachee in the direction of a certain outcome or answer, which is the solution the coach secretly wants, right? Or that the mother secretly wants.
Or the attorney in a courtroom.
Oh, exactly. That's right. Exactly.
Right.
You're leading
on
questions
TV all the time. Yeah.
Right. Rhetorical questions are blatantly biased, right?
Totally.
Leading questions are a little trickier. They can hide the intent and propel the conversation in a certain suggestive direction, right? So the coach is leading the conversation instead of the coachee leading the coach, directing the path. So an example of that would be, it seems like this option would feel good now, but the other one might have more to offer. Which one will you choose? You know, or how would you describe that feeling? Discouraged? You know, does it make you angry?
Now, where's the power in that, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, open-ended questions do not lead. They don't lead. They offer the client the chance to bring up the thing that they need the most. So we're all in favor of open-ended questions versus any of these.
Exactly. So mistake number 8.
What do you got, Corey?
We got to, you know, we talked a little about this a minute ago when I made referencing to what it is to interrupt, you know, and so there's 2 sections here on interrupting. Number 8 is neglecting to interrupt. So, right. So now you got a client, and this is the one I was referring to. So, all right, now being too shy or too timid to interrupt a chat in order to keep it on track and focused allows the conversation to stray away from what you are here to do and share. Some clients can speak with like supreme clarity, and others, they need to process and work it out and like self-correct in that process and ramble away to search for that answer to get your questions. And now this is where an interruption is appropriate, where you say, okay, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to stop you in this story. And I'm going to remind you that we're actually talking about this over here. We're going to come back to the focus. We're going to come back to where we got derailed, right? So interrupting in this way is invited. It's a strong message that you are really listening. You're paying attention and you're keeping track of what is happening. And once again, this kind of interruption, it builds rapport, it builds trust, It lets you know that you're engaged, you're paying attention, right? It gives you credibility.
Right. Now, other side of that, we're talking about interrupting. Okay, you
Let's take the
interrupt.
nine. Yep.
Let's keep things on track. This is what we're talking about. You know, keeping things hemmed in. But when you interrupt with an unawareness, so lots of us interrupt all day long without even knowing it. It's a way we chat, we talk, we converse, we play, we engage, we communicate, just go about our merry lives. And we often don't know that we're interrupting at all.
Right.
So interrupters, you could be all excited to say something, and I just did it. I just did it. I was like, wait, I have one more thing. And I was like, totally interrupted.
Do it a lot.
I was all excited to do my thing, and I wasn't keeping the focus on where the conversation was going. And now interrupters can be perceived by others as being bullyish, being dishonoring, disrespectful, frustrating to talk to. So being interrupted can feel like being silenced, being stopped, being put in your place.
That's no fun.
And so it's, when we're talking about that kind of interrupting, now I'm going to go back to when I just did it. When I added one piece and I interrupted and interjected one more piece of point of view, it was still in the context and in the flow of what is being communicated. I wasn't interrupting with some random fact, right? That was unrelated. But we want to be listening. We want to be listening to each other, and there's no listening when you're just randomly interrupting, interjecting, and when you don't take that leadership and accountability to keep the conversation on track. You're not aware of what the purposeful communication is. When two people are sharing energy, sharing conversation, sharing their lives with each other and exploring these kinds of topics or anything, understanding where that conversation is leading, and not leading the conversation, but allowing the conversation to lead the interaction. We want to really be listening, and we want to be accountable that we are going to stay hemmed in. We're going to keep things on track. So when we interrupt, there needs to be a mindful, real choice to do that.
Right.
And we need to reveal the reason why.
Yes.
So that is how we can engage. That's how we maintain focus. If you're interrupting, as my father said, there better be a good reason for it.
Well, and be
you better
polite.
tell me now. But really,
and be polite and sensitive to people's feelings, and be clear about why the interruption happened. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's something to be said about the notion of excuse me. In this context, there is a window where you could excuse yourself and your interruption, but the greater good of the conversation is served with that interruption.
Yes, part of that
And
respect too. The respect of that too, in that interruption. And if you're the one doing the interruption, I say like in a coach, for example, or with your family or whoever else, you also want to make sure that the ones you're interrupting has finished their thought, right? Give them a chance to actually finish, put the period on the end of their sentence, right? Because so often that can be interpreted as just rude and mean and insensitive, and then there's silence. Yeah, that's part of it. There's
phrases like, there's an excuse me, there is, can you hold that thought? Or I really love that. Can contribute here? Can I,
I want to return
did
to
you
that.
notice that?
Yeah.
Can we come back to that?
Mhm.
Can we just pause on that for a moment because there was this thing we wanted to cover? There's a number of ways that you can demonstrate that you're listening, that you can demonstrate that you are there for the greater good of that conversation.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're talking
like
about,
that
being
sentence.
unaware or aware of those interruptions.
Yeah. So
I
the
love
last
it.
number
So I've
10,
got the last
the
mistake.
10th mistake, the 10th thing not to do.
Mistake number
in asking
10.
questions.
Why questions? Why questions? They just tend to silence the conversation. You know, why questions challenge the motivations underlying the situation. You know, when you offer a
Ooh.
question like, why did you do that? You're asking for defensiveness. You're just asking for justifications of the action, right? You're inviting defensiveness.
Well,
So
you want to invite her to the party? Defensiveness?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh
Good.
no.
Thank you.
Always such a difficult guess.
Right. So a solution, an option, alternative would be to use what instead. So let's see if you can see the difference between why did you quit your job? And so what factors led you to turn down your job or to move on from your job? And then here's another example. Why do you think she responded like that? Versus what is causing you to anticipate that response or negative
Wow.
response, right? Such
Right.
a big difference, right?
Huge.
As we were going through these, something came to mind that we've talked about a lot before, is this idea of toward and away, right? So this is clearly a list of away, right? Away things, but I would just, to wrap this little moment up here, I would say that, let's talk just for a second about the toward view of this, right? The toward view is what works to open up, the client, to open up the hidden things that can help reveal what leads to discovery, what leads to, powerful discovery. When a client comes up with those solutions themselves, it's so powerful. You don't question it, right? When they're, what opens up a client's connection to higher, to intuition, to truer self. And so, yeah, I was thinking about that as we went through here. So even though it's, this is an away from bliss, we really, the intention here is what is it towards, right?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so true choices and end results, what do we love? What are we trying to create? That's what this is all about.
Exactly.
Just a different way of hearing that. When you're talking about having somebody open up, consider the polar opposite. What can cause I shut down that conversation, or they totally shut down? I asked them a question and they shut down. You know what those questions that we all do, and these why questions are a shutdown. They start shutting down the conversation instead of opening up, right?
Yeah, well, when you're being defensive, you're not being creative.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no exploration going on. It's
Right,
like, oh,
totally.
don't you go there. I'm
Opposite of
down.
flow. It just shuts down all flow.
All right. So, talking about flow and talking about growing things and talking about putting all of this to use, it's called the GROW model for conversation structure. Right now, this is something that's been used in coaching and in team building and in corporations and how people work together in a long time. There's lots, you can look it up. And GROW, it's an acronym for goal, reality check, options, and will. Right. So now this is a little 4-step process that leads from defining an objective, which is the goal, to clearly defining the beginning point. Okay, now that's the reality check. to developing a potential course of action, your options, to creating a concrete action step with a buy-in. Now that's the will to actually move forward towards the goal. So I just want to take that apart a little bit, because we, as coaches, we want to help people create the life they love. And so here's a real quick and old and used and tried and true way to do this. So let's take it apart. Let's ask some questions around the goal. All right. So this is the objective, the true choice, the end results. Some of these questions would be, all right, what do you most want to talk about? What do you want to create? What outcome would make this conversation an amazing success? What do you want to get out of our time together? How could you rephrase that goal so it depends only on what you do and not at all on other people?
Love, that's my favorite one.
Yeah,
I know.
right? So all of a sudden, we're taking our power back. We're saying, okay, I have a goal, I have a result, I want to do a thing. And we're also helping the client put it into the realm of possibility. We're making it possible. So maybe a long-term goal then would say, okay, well, what specifically do you want to accomplish here? What will be different as a result of working on this area of your life for your project, right? How can we make that goal measurable so that we know when you've achieved it? Once again, how do we know it's possible? How do we know when success is granted and that we throw a celebration party, right? So that then we can create again. It's not endless. We're not oscillating in the realm of not possible. Another question, by when do you want to have this done? What are your timetables? What's your 3, 5, 6 month targets? Right, so that's the goal section. Now let's do a reality. Oh yeah, Sarah.
May I interject and just highlight and throw a little spotlight on, this sounds an awful lot like our lenses process.
It sure does.
Just saying.
What are you
It's
creating? And like in lenses, as I like to say, it is the sweetest love letter to yourself. Right? A true choice is the definition of a true choice is because you love it, because you love it. No other reason. You adore it. It gives you
What
goosebumps.
could you do? And what else could you do? And what else? And what other potential course of action could you take?
Right.
And
So
what
we can
could
also
you
draw a
do
parallel.
that doesn't affect that?
Right. So there's a parallel here too, of the 6 unpacking questions. What do you want to create? Here it is. Right. And then the reality check, where are you now? Right? Now we're going to create that creative structure, that creative tension. Here it is. But the reality check in the growth system, let's define that. So this is the beginning point. Where are you right now in your world? Now, in this world, this is your reality check of your objective rather than your subjective. You're going to ask questions that draw out the facts of concrete evidence, not self-evaluation or generalizations. Where are you really right now? And in the 6 unpacking questions, if we want to put some emotions on that, well, okay, well, what does that feel like right now compared to what you want to design, what do you want to make, the desire you want to create, right? Now, once again, there's that structure, that creative structure, that tension. We've talked about this in past episodes of Let's Talk. We've dug deep into some of those things. Please go check those out if you're wondering what we're talking about, right? So, okay, in that reality check, instead of, here's an example of a question. If you're a coach asking like a reality check, instead of saying, how often do you exercise? Now, this is a subjective evaluation, right? All of a sudden the client's gonna go, my values, I don't feel good, I don't know what to do, versus how many times in the last week did you exercise? Now that's objective, saying, okay, that happened, it was an achievement, it's real, as opposed to a made up fact about myself. Some other examples about this, about your reality check. What is it like for you now? What have you actually accomplished this day, this week, this month? Who else is involved and how? What have you tried already? What difference did those actions really make? What was the impact? What factors are most important in this matter? And what events or choices led you to this place? Right, so now we're getting into what's real about where your starting point, what's really going on. Where can you really make a change? Where do you begin? Where can you have an impact, and in what priority and in what order? right? And so some of these options to think about your reality check, or the options, excuse me, that's what's next, right? Reality check, that's where I'm at. My options, what can I and will I do? This step is to think creatively, to develop solutions, and to make more choices than you thought possible. This is where the work and the magic happens, through making lots of suggestions and asking even more questions, opening up the field. So what questions like this would be, so what could you do about this? What other potential courses of action can you think of? Can you find at least 5 different potential solutions? Wow, one solution might be hard. Can you think of 5? Talk about a brain challenge. What else could you do? If you had an unlimited resources and knew that you could not fail, what would you try?
Ooh, good
I
one.
love that. That's opening the
What would
realm
you
of possibility. That's opening the realm of dreaming, right? We're removing limitation and
Yeah.
resistance by saying,
Just-
what if you
just
couldn't
enough
fail? Now what?
allowance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm going to put a gold star by that one. What if the obstacles were removed? What could happen? What could you do to overcome your obstacle, right? What are your options now? Who or what could help you? What other resources could you draw on to tackle this? Who else could you ask for creative ideas? And what have you seen others do that might work for you, right? So now you're looking at options. What could happen? What might happen? What skills do I need? And all of a sudden, this realm of possibilities starts to take shape. All of a sudden, there's an option of different pathways to take, different ways to create. And now all of a sudden, it doesn't feel stuck. It feels like, well, if I took this road, I would get these things first. I took these road, that would happen in this order, and that feels good. Now you're in this realm of possibility. Wow, what a powerful place to be. Wizard's Gate, right? We're back at the Wizard's Gate. So then the will, the 4th letter in the word grow, the will. This is the step where you turn the preferred solutions into action steps, right? And once again, you've got that emotional buy-in, because now you're excited. You're in that realm of possibility. You're like, wow, that feels good. So, all right, these will questions, it's like, okay, of the solutions and the options that I'm playing with here, what options do I want most? What feels best? How do I turn that action step into a certain thing, right? What will you do and by when? What step could you take this week that will move you towards your goal? What step could you take today that will move you towards your goal? All right, here's this question. Hey, you mentioned that you could do this, but what will you do? So like when we talk about lenses, there's that section of all the things I could do. And then we're going to pull 3 over and say, all right, I'm committing to these 3. And when I get those done, I'm going to pull a few more over, a few more over. And next thing you know, look at all of the things you've accomplished. Pretty cool thing. All right, now let's do a little motivation check. Now I love this. This is, you're looking at your options, you're looking at your action steps, and you're kind of looking at how much energy you have. Okay, so now on a scale of 1 to 10, you look at this list of the things that you're doing, your options, your goals, your action steps. On that scale of 1 to 10, right? How probability is it that you're going to do it? 10 being, yep, it's done already, and 1 being, oh, I just don't know. Yep. Okay, so we're going to tag some of those things. Okay, you got a 6 on something. It's something you want to do it, but you're still not quite committed. Next question, how can we alter that step to turn a 6 into an 8, 9, or even a 10? How can we raise the bar? How can we make it more exciting? How can we raise your motivation, right? Are there any obstacles that we need to address to make this step? Yeah, there are. And we get to. We get to do our obstacles. We don't have to. It's an opportunity to grow again. It's an opportunity to create. It's an opportunity to turn our problems into challenges. They're no longer problems. Now they're just the next puzzle to figure out. And we are good at figuring out puzzles. That's what we do all day long.
It's such a tendency for people, we want to take action on the things that we think of. We want to turn our dreams into reality. We want it when shit starts getting real, but it's the good stuff. Yes, please, more.
Yes, please.
Yes, please,
But
more.
Exactly how
That's the
sometimes gets
buy-in.
blurry, right?
Mhm.
And that's where we come in. That nebulous gray area of I don't even know. And so people will get the notion that maybe it's just a pipe dream, and that's such a dismissive thing to say. The only reason something's a pipe dream is because you don't know how to get to it exactly. But there are actions that you can take, and when it gets broken down like this, it's like, are you willing to take this step? Are you willing to take that step? What's the next one? We don't tell anybody what's right for them, but we help them discover what's the right step for them to take to get what they want, right? So I just want to review, because we've been all through this today. So what we're really doing here when we're talking about unpacking, we're talking about these questions and how we use the art of conversation and questions to help someone else have a clearer understanding of their own life and steps and action and purpose and desires and everything, right? We're asking these questions to reveal the bigger picture. And once we're in rapport and trust with each other, then we can get bigger and we can go deeper. We can ask more probing questions. We can ask about the past a little. We can ask what led up to this. Like, do you know, how did we get here? You know, I'm here, I'm meeting you here, but how do we get here? Do we know? Should we check? You know, give me some background. How did you arrive at this place? And what else fed into that? And it's a curiosity, it's an interest, it's an intrigue. But when we take a look at the past, take a look at the other side. What about the future? Where do you see it going? How do you want things to turn out? What's your best possible outcome here? What do you see as your best possible outcome? Help me understand the dream. What's this compelling future that's called you to here and now and want and wish and yearn? Help me understand the dream. Show me where we're going. Show me where you're going. And then our questions take us to noticing. And I love that, Larry. You're always like, oh, good noticing. It's really, we're noticing patterns. It's about patterns, because you notice pattern, there may be something automatic in there. There is. But when you notice patterns, then you can be deliberate about shifting them. So, have you been in a place like this before? Describe what happened. How have similar situations affected you? How have you responded to them? Do you see any patterns in your life or in your responses? And we ask questions around emotions. What's going on inside you while this is happening? How do you feel about it? Can you describe the emotions that this situation brings up inside you? We're always asking to help me understand. I want to get it. I'm interested. I care. I want to know. What about the other people's point of view? How do you think other people see this? What does it look like from their point of view? If you were them, what would it look like? You know, we've talked about point of view and some of the clarity that can bring, because sometimes, It's not about other people's judgments always. Sometimes it's like, maybe I'm looking at this sideways. Maybe if I looked at it from over here. And it's just an invitation to shift your perspective and see, maybe there's something else. But you also, people can get tangled up in their minds, right? We're asking questions so that we can kind of, we say, nail it down. You know, you want to make it concrete. You want to get a handle on it. You want to grab it. So we ask questions like, give me a specific example of that. Can you think of like a specific thing? What exactly did you or they say? You know, okay, run it from the top. What exactly happened? Right? Just get a handle on it. And then we get into values and principles. Like, what values do you hold that are going to influence your response to this? We remind people of their values. We ask them to notice the relationship between their actions, the outcomes, the judgments, the points of view, the values, the business, ethical, spiritual, practical practices. What's applicable? What filters are we going to use here? What applies? What piece of knowledge do you have that applies here, and how can we apply it? And is there another way of looking at it? Is there another way to apply it? What would it mean? What would it mean to be true to your beliefs and your principles in this situation?
I love that one.
There's a really, really, yeah, I mean, that's, that question is very inescapable. You ask that question, it's like, what would it mean if you were true to your beliefs and your principles in this situation? That sheds another light on things. When you ask someone to consider these different things, you're shining different lights, you're using different filters. And I mean, we all know what lighting and filtering can do, right? But what if you start taking those off and you start saying, well, you know, maybe can you look at it this way? And it's the questions that do that for a client. And you get right down to the heart of the matter. What are the real issues? You know, I know you think, you know, we're talking about this and it's about this, but is it really? Are we sure? What else is really going on here? Why is this significant for you? What makes it significant for you? But genuinely want to understand. It's not leading or judgmental or opinionated. It's a genuine, I want to help and I want to understand. So you can say, like, it seems like this is really important to you. So talk about it a little more. And these questions, when you're looking at all of this stuff, you know, it really, for me, and I'm just even looking at these notes, and it needs, in my opinion, if you truly care and you're truly in service to the person you're talking to, in relationship of any kind, then that communication and that intention will be conveyed and those relationships grow. But asking the questions and understanding where those questions can take someone is really, really important and really powerful, because with every question, you're giving that person more power. And we are all about giving you more power, more and more. And more.
Yes, more and more and more power. Where's the power, right? Where's the focus and where's the power? Sarah, I loved that. And you were talking about, you know, pulling out the things that are really important to someone and getting them to talk about it a little more. I've just got a little exercise here that will do that. It's just a little 10-minute, we're not going to do this, but I'm just going to share an exercise that you can do with clients or friends or any group. It's an observation and question exercise. So as you're, conversing with someone, or if you're coaching someone, listen for the most interesting thing a person or a group has to say. The most important things that come up in a conversation. Maybe it's a statement or an idea. And you're going to repeat that statement or summarize that idea and ask some questions. So you can ask questions like, you mentioned that, tell me more about that, or say more about this idea. You can say, keep going. Tell me more. I've been doing things like this with my son a lot lately. He's been working through some difficult things and just things to draw ideas out, grow the conversation, pull more things up, right? You can say, and then what? What did you discover? How did the journey go for each of you? How did it go for both of you together? Did you feel more connected, closer? Do you feel clearer now? What feels good about this, or what feels clear to you now? What comes next, right? So Corey, what comes next?
Well, I think doing that exercise is kind of an interesting thing to harvest your own observation, your own noticing. Like when you're the one asking these open-ended questions, pay attention to what's happening. Like all of a sudden, what is the response that you're getting from these people, especially if you already know them and all of a sudden you're doing something you've not done before. You're asking them to participate, you're asking them to engage, you're asking them to share. And just watch how they soften, watch how they all of a sudden bring up something that wasn't there before. There's new information, there's more story, there's a deeper connection. And that's what I think that exercise is all about. Just try it out over coffee and ask 10 questions in a row without offering up any solutions or comments of your own. Just ask questions and see what happens. That's what that's about. I think that's kind of amazing. Right. So our grand finale here, wrapping things up around, the art of asking questions, the benefits of having a coach, the benefits of being a client with a coach, right? I want to come back to Dr. Carrie Ulrich again. There's a quote from her about this. Overall, unpacking baggage is truly getting to the foundation and root cause of individual behavior and motivations. Coaches can help clients with this difficult work by collecting data from others and from conducting psychometric assessments. It is necessary to have frank, direct, and potentially uncomfortable conversations with the client in order to guide them to a breakthrough. Helping a client dig deep and uncover baggage is a grand final end for a coach, as well as a grand final for a client. Your client is now able to reflect on their actions and understand what motivates and what triggers, what inspires and what irritates. They are in control of the baggage, and that in turn can lead to more joy and fulfillment from working relationships, and I dare say personal ones as well. Well,
I love that.
Thank you, Dr. Carrie Ulrich. Yep. We've learned a lot today.
I want to highlight one little thing. And that is that when you are listening to all of these questions that we are presenting and all of these different ways of asking questions, we don't always need the answer. It's the client that needs to consider the answer. The level of sharing is up to a client. And when we're talking about opening things up, it doesn't need to be all splayed out on the table always. We can ask questions and leave that with a client. So there's that little piece in there that I didn't touch on in my last.
Right on. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so I want to quickly open up the room. The people who are here, from all over the world. Anybody have any questions or comments? Any ahas, takeaways, additions, celebrations, achievements, anything? Anybody in the room want to pop in and join us?
Hi.
Hi, Kat. Welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Holy mackerel. I see myself in some of this and I'm like, oh man, some people really don't want to be talking to me. Or they want to be talking and not listening because I
Right.
interrupt. Usually, okay, I do interrupt. Sometimes my ex is the worst. He gets so angry, but it's because he doesn't tell me what he's talking about and he's going on and I will forget. I won't understand where he's going, so I won't hear everything properly. So I say, I'm sorry, can you just tell me what this meant and what that means? And he gets so angry and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't ask questions. So I don't know when I'm supposed to, I'm very bad at this. I don't know when to ask the questions and when to stop.
It's about what questions you're asking. So sometimes, and again, it's about that part where we're talking about interrupting with
Right.
purpose
I think I
and
do
saying,
that.
okay, can you help me get to this step? Help me get to this step. And I can talk about this a little bit more because, sometimes you're not understanding where the conversation is going, and that's cool. But, when we're talking about asking questions, when you're asking questions with the intention of understanding what the other person is communicating and understanding the emotion that's being communicated, they're talking because they want you to get something.
Yeah.
And so if you're not really getting it, asking for a little more here or a little more there, not can you get somewhere else for me that I understand, but can you help me understand this piece? I'm not getting something. That invitation to give you more is often really well received. But when you ask them to take you somewhere else that makes more sense to you, then the person doesn't feel as understood. Do you see
Right.
see the difference?
I do. I find I'm okay doing that with most everybody. It's just him. I think he tends to say a whole lot of things that I can't follow right away. Maybe that's me, but I just need to know what the topic is because I'm losing all of the information you're giving me. So I need like a little bit more information before you get to the point of, I don't know how to explain that myself right now.
Sometimes if you're listening to a conversation like that and you're listening to someone sharing that, if you think of it as, you're commuting, you're trying to get to work, right? You need to get there in a certain point. The purpose is to get to point B, right? You're going from here to there. That's where we're going. So get us there and get us there quickly. Then there's the Sunday country drive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going anywhere in particular.
Yeah.
You're just sharing the experience.
Yeah.
So maybe there isn't any particular point, but maybe there's an effort to share different small reactions, different ways of looking at things, different observing. So if you take a conversation like that and you imagine yourself as the passenger in the car and you're like, oh, look at that. And you're sightseeing, the focus on get to your point and I'm missing your point. Maybe there isn't one to miss. And maybe if you took if you took a look at the different ways you can have those conversations and see if a different style suits better the way he communicates.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I'm listening to this too and thinking that one really maybe important piece of information is that he's your ex, and sometimes we don't have the best. Yeah, I'm wondering if this is true for everyone or is this specific to the ex, because I'm guessing that maybe we have
good noticing, good listening,
noticing, right? Yeah. And, a lot of this, what we were talking about, the ice breaking and then the next and the next, it's a lot of this is dependent on rapport, right? And we don't always have the best rapport with our exes. So, you know, sometimes there's already such defensiveness built
Yeah.
in because of the relationship that already exists. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind, and remember that this is not a you being able to figure something out or you not following thing necessarily. You
That
know,
makes sense.
it's
Yeah.
very likely there's some energy dynamic there that's
Totally. There's always a bit of, there's a lot of this constant. We hang out all the time, but it's a lot of, I love you, but holy mother of God, it's so frustrating
Yeah.
talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's-
I interrupt, sorry, I just did. I interrupt all the time because I feel like it's just like, I don't know where you're going with this. There's no point right now. And then so but I'm getting there. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what all this conversation meant. And it's just, I don't know. We have different styles in communicating.
Well, when you're
so-
interrupting in that way, Kat, you know, you can turn it around, and that's when you say, I need help. You know, I know you're getting to the point, but I need you to throw me the rope here.
I
Go
do,
back.
but he still gets mad at me.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. There's there.
Again, back to the
But then you don't take
point
it
of
personally.
distinction that this is an X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
So you
'Cause,
don't.
like,
You move to that place where you just decide to not take it personally anymore. Give him permission to be grumpy and to be clumsy, and that's okay. That's his journey. That's not
Yeah.
your journey. Yeah.
I also have to not get frustrated when I interrupt. I think I did that last time. I said, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt here. I just need to know who that baseball player is. Who are you speaking of, this card that you're talking, so I can get more perspective on it. And then he was very calm when he said it. So I guess it's more about my frustration,
Right.
perhaps.
So
Well,
real
thank you.
quickly,
you know what? When you are interjecting and asking for a piece of information, it would help me appreciate what we're talking about if I better understood blank.
Yeah. I
And
say
it's
that.
like, instead of saying, I need to say,
You're
or
blo-
why
you're-
don't you?
You're cutting out. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I went, maybe helping, help me help you, right? Help me hear you. And that little shift, and it's very small, but that little shift can sometimes deflect and avoid that defensive reaction, because you want a conversation to flow, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like he wants to tell a whole story without any interruptions at all, ever. But I want to know more. And if I don't have this piece of information, I don't know where you're going. I don't know what to say. But I guess, again, I think my asking might be coming off a little more frustrated than he can't handle my energy. So, you know,
Well,
thank
real
you.
quick, everyone, I just need to interrupt for a quick second. Here in a minute, I've got another coaching appointment that's very important. So I've made Laura the co-host, or the host, so she's now in control of the recording. So I'm going to have to.
Oh, Corey.
Just the recording, right?
Yeah, I'm so
not
sorry I
the
don't get
world.
to hear what y'all have to say, because that's what I saw Susan over there with her sparkly eyes. I'm always curious what Susan has to say.
Thanks, Corey.
You'll get the replay too. You'll have the replay as soon as your email tells you. Thank you
Yes.
We
so
love
much,
you,
Corey.
Wow.
We love you.
Well, I'm going to hang right here until my phone rings, and then my super coach is who I'm going to meet next. So
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
One thing that we've been talking about the art of, we called it unpacking. And I just wanted to point something else out here. We're talking about asking questions, conversation, rapport. This is not the 6 unpacking questions and the unpacking resistance to taking an action. That's an entirely different situation. You need to get to this level of rapport before anyone participates in unpacking resistance
there you
to
go.
that level.
Yeah.
when we're talking about asking these questions, this is relationship building, this is rapport, this is seeking understanding, this is getting on the same page, being on the same team. And this is where you need to be before you start into, why aren't you doing the thing? You know, what's going on there? How come you're not, you know, holding somebody accountable requires a level of rapport and trust and understanding that gets built with this kind of interaction. So I just wanted to make the distinction, you know, unpacking someone's heart and what their goals are and what their dreams are and who they are. That's a different thing than unpacking a resistance. And they're very different styles of questions. They're very different ways of approaching. And so we're going to, I think, guys, are we doing that next week? Unpacking resistance
Yeah, I
specifically?
think we're doing resistance and unpacking of resistance. So resistance was one of the topics on the table that it's on a list that we haven't gotten to. So that I think those will work well together.
Yeah. Okay. Because yeah, we've got more to say when we're talking about unpacking resistance. This particular chat was more about unpacking someone's heart and getting to know someone and building a relationship with them.
I'd like to just say that.
So does anybody else have any feedback?
Yeah, I do.
Susan was.
This was great. This was again great. I've realized how much of a bully I am with my children because I'm so solution oriented.
Me too.
I just have to give them the answer because I don't have time to listen to all the and then I work really hard to get my answers, and you should have them too. Isn't that what I'm here?
Right.
Oh, yeah, they're right.
They're right. They're the right ones.
I have just realised where the source of the frustration is for particularly my youngest child. Yeah, so how precious. Thank you so much.
I love that you brought that up, Susan, because I've been recognizing that a lot lately with my son. He's going through something really difficult, and it's not something that is a familiar journey to me. And you know, when you're in pushing your ideas on them, and especially if you're doing it in a sneaky way, you know, a hidden way, the leading question kind of way, the solution kind of way, it's taking their power away. It's taking their wonder away. It's taking their ability to expand and pull those things out of themselves and really connect with them and know that they're theirs. You know, whether it's their stuff, the negative stuff, resistance, or whether it's their gifted, inspired solutions, right? So, and
You know,
when anybody gets put in a box, you know, the limitation of someone else's idea or solution, it's, you know, that shuts us all down. We all feel trapped by that. So,
you know, when you've got as a parent or as a friend and anybody, somebody's got like, I know what they should do. I know that, and it's not that you don't. You have come up with the perfect solution if it was you. And that's okay. You can have the perfect solution if it was you, but it isn't. And their solution might be different. It might be the same. It might be, who knows what it is, but it's perfect for them. Your questions are to help them explore courses of action, possible things they could do that's going to be right for them. And it maybe is a second-rate solution to someone else, but it's perfect for them. Might be, you might think, oh no, I've got a way better one, but only for you, right? And realizing that and allowing other people to have their own power and understanding. And as much as you know somebody, as deeply as you know somebody, you don't really know what rings true in their heart for what they want, except for when they tell you. And if you don't listen, you will never know.
Yeah.
I loved everything you just said.
Yes, my the aha for me is how I have functioned to look elsewhere for solutions rather than, and that's part of gathering information.
Mhm.
But then these answers, authorized by others' solutions, become my justification for sharing truths. Does that make any sense?
Yes. Oh, I
Absolutely.
feel that, Susan. Yep.
Me too. That was,
Very intricate, isn't it? But to see it, when you notice it,
Oh,
that's a huge shift, because then it's like, ooh, because it's so intricate, you almost can't see it. You can't see the stitches behind there. Then it's like, oh, okay. But yeah,
interestingly, I
having,
feel
this is, I was listening to an interview with William Whitecloud yesterday, and what you just said made me think of something, a connection I made. He was talking about the difference between imitation, which is the lowest level of creativity is imitation. You're just copying what you see elsewhere, and versus the highest would be high level creative, right? And that's when you are drawing your solutions in your creations from your connection with something beyond you, right? Or from deep within you. And we could do the same thing when we're looking for solutions. So, well, that's how they solved it. I'll try that. That's how she solved that. That's a way of solving this. I'll try that, versus having it come,
that works fantastic in a problem solving orientation. It's
right.
the best way to go. It's like, what worked for everybody else, let me do that. But in creation,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, do you see all of the options? Which one?
Right. And that's where it's fine to gather, right? I'm a big gatherer. I'm a researcher. I'll grab it all. But that doesn't mean that any one of them is right. It means it's grab all of that, and then that's more. There's more option, right, to pull from.
You know what?
Yeah.
But gathering that information, and from the point of view of it being somebody else, you're talking about someone else's circumstance. You can gather all kinds of information. And as a coach, I know that there's a circumstance happening with a client, and I can gather the information. I don't offload it.
Mm-hmm.
If that person says, okay, I'm stuck here, it's like, okay, you know what? I have some information that I got together. You do that so beautifully, Lara, because, we're talking about these things. I was thinking about that last week, and I knew we were going to be talking about that. And so I went and looked for some resources, and I found this and this and this. And then it's an offer. And it's not, here's, it's got a different energy than the dump of, I went out and got this for you. It's like a cat bringing home a mouse and saying, there's the mouse on the step. And you're like,
That's
I
interesting.
didn't ask for a mouse. And the cat's like, but I went and got it. Oh, okay. But if you ask the cat to go and get the mouse that's been running around the kitchen for the last 2 weeks, then okay, you've asked. Now it's something you wanted, right?
Interesting.
So there's a different energy to when you collect all of the information, you collect potential solutions.
Oh,
You
collect
can
potential.
become, you can become the library. but they still have to come and ask for the resource.
I
For me.
I love the idea of collecting potentials. That's such a great little phrase, collecting potential, anything. You know, I'm going to do an art project. Let's go collect potential stuff to work with. Doesn't mean
Right?
we're gonna choose any of them, but we might put these together and make something new. But
Yeah, let's go get a bucket or a basket and we'll go to the woods and pick up interesting things. I mean, if you go to the childlike
this
innocence,
is getting
we're going to
fun.
the beach, get all of the things you like, and we'll make something with it.
Yeah,
Something, don't know what. There's just things. I love that.
I love that.
Susan, we got it. I interrupted and I got chatty, and so I'm sorry. I would like to hear more about your
Yes,
moment of
please.
understanding.
Oh, no, but it is essentially that. I recently had a conversation with someone, and I cannot help but drop in truths that have served me, and I do so without offering them. And I think that's probably where the distinction lies. Yeah. And the other thing is, I realize this about myself. I hold back, and then when I do speak, there's so much energy behind it. It does feel like bullying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a
I feel that. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
There's
familiar
a
to me. Let's say.
me too. There's a difference, and for me, my great grandmother, and I thought, why can't I just be like she was? You know, every time we go to that old farmhouse, and she'd be in the kitchen, she'd big country kitchen, and the wood stove was going, and she'd be in her rocking chair, and she would always, it didn't matter what day, what kind of a surprise, she would always look like she was expecting us. She always had this warm, oh, you're finally here, come on in. And there was always something to offer, but it wasn't that jumping up and get in here and let's do this and I'm gonna it was like, well, of course I've got cookies, dear, I baked them last week, and let's just go and get those and come on in. And it's just a more seated energy of reception and offering instead of control.
Yes.
And so it reminds me of, in my mind, whenever I think of those dynamics, I immediately have that personified as my great Grammy and my great Grampy. And he would come in and he's like, we need to do this and you need to do, and let's do it. And you have to. And he was like that. And she was just very, yes, I've got all of those things and it's fine. And she was just very mellow. And I'm like, I want to be that kind of grandma. She's like, would you like to comb my hair, dear? And she'd take her bun out, she'd have silver hair right down to the floor. And we get to braid it and make designs with it. And it was so fun. And she was just very receptive to whatever the experience in the moment was. Nothing knocked her off balance. And my great grandfather was very, you know what that boy needs. I mean, you know those two energies, right? And it's like, well, why don't you come and
Absolutely.
talk about it? There's a very distinct difference. So yeah, interesting stuff. And the questions sound different coming from those two different energies.
Interesting.
Thank you all.
I
I
noticed that
learned a lot for this.
I know. Kat's got her hand up.
Hey, I was gonna say very similar to Susan. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I relate to that. So blah 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 blah, and then I'm like, oh sorry, I overtook the conversation. I constantly do that. It's horrible. But I did want to say thank you so much for. I was trying to write everything down, and I learned a lot, and I'm going to practice communicating better because I was never allowed to ask questions when I was a child, ever. So I was made to feel stupid. Oof, that's a feeling that's just coming. So I have to learn how to do it properly instead of just interrupting and throwing in my own stuff. But I need to ask and delve into my relationships better. Also, I have friends that I can do it with. It's more easy, but there are some people that are a little more different personality styles, I guess.
It's really interesting, and I think a lot of people grow up with different variations of that. Either they were just didn't ask because of their own judgment or the judgment of others. But I think one of the big lessons for me in this whole talk is that this is like conversation is a skill. Asking questions, it's a skill that can just grow and grow and grow. Awareness is a big part of it. Noticing is a big part of it. Watching for feedback, noticing how your energy is interacting with this other energy. I was laughing earlier because Sarah and I are probably more with Corey and Sarah and I, when we're working together, Sarah and I are more likely to interrupt than Corey. Corey's very respectful and careful, and I'm the worst, right? And I noticed that as we were going down that one, Corey was commenting the most, yeah, right, yes, yep, yeah, yep, yep, responding a lot to how it feels to be interrupted, right? And I was laughing because when we were growing up, I have two sisters, and two of us just talk right over each other. We just plow right over each other, and we don't even notice a thing. And I've got this other sister who, when she sees that, is just baffled. I have no idea how you hear each other. I have no idea how you're even understanding each other. I could never. So, but it's really interesting because there's the interrupting thing, and then there's the energy of a person. I studied an energy profiling system that, it's about how a person's energy moves through the world, right? And there are some energy types that are just much more relaxed and set back and gentle and flowing and more, maybe more thoughtful before speaking. And then there are others that are high energy, they're dashing around or more random, right? I'd say one would be very random and rambling, like a bubbling brook, right? And the two might be just sort of flowing. And anyway, the numbers don't matter, but then there's some that are a push forward type energy, and they just kind of blast in like a ball, right? So there are natural sort of energy types that we have. I think as a higher, bolder energy type, you might need to keep a better check on that interrupting, because, it can be more random and more abrupt and harsher. So,
Totally.
that's something
But instead of looking at it from that point of view and about, okay, this is something I do and I should and I need and I could, what could eclipse that behavior? What could come in its place if you hold your genuine interest? Now, one principle of what we do is that people can choose to transform, and we are allowing ourselves to change. And holding that to be true, other people can change too. Therefore, are you not wanting to know who these people are? You don't know them. You knew who they were yesterday. You knew who they were last week. You knew who they were when, but who are they today? And can you have genuine interest and marvel like they're a brand new person and get to know them new every time you speak with them? That allows people to change. It allows them to do things differently. It allows really playful curiosity. And I didn't know that about you. And that's really cool. And I've never looked at it like that before. And tell me more about that. And you can have these kinds of conversations with people you've known for decades. And
I
it
love
makes
that.
it fun. It makes it open. And they're not you. And they don't have to be you. And everybody's just a marvelous human being in their own right. And notice how different your experience is when you treat them like that.
I love that
Mm.
so much. I love the idea of not having any expected version of a person. And right now I'm thinking of a child, right? Of your children, you know,
Mhm.
or a spouse, you expect a certain way of being or behavior, and you're already prepared for it, whether it's with, you know, what you're sharing or what
Prepared
you're
for it,
ready
you
to
set it
respond.
up.
Yeah, you set
It's
it up.
a setup.
It's holding them to an old version of themselves. So if we can think about always holding that light for a new version to be showing up at any moment and
Yep.
allowing for that, expecting it, you know, reinforcing the idea that we get to be new, we get to be different in any given moment, any given interaction. Love that.
But I think at the same time, my lesson is to allow what is to be as well, because
Mhm.
holding an expectation of transformation is part of what causes me to be disrespectful or bullying in conversation. Treating it as a mirror for my own awareness is probably where I should be putting my focus more than in transforming the moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now when I'm talking about okay, so there's a distinction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Expecting a transformation
Yes.
versus allowing for the possibility that somebody chose to transform their reaction in a given moment.
Yes.
You're not, you know, and I mean, we're thinking about children, we're thinking about spouses, and I'm actually thinking about a parent right now where, well, they've always done it this way. This is what I can expect. Here I go. I'm going to go into this conversation because I know how they are. No, I don't. Something may have happened in the last 2 days. I don't know. What if it was a brand new person? And why do I get along really well with people I don't know? Because I don't have any, I'm genuinely curious. I want to know. I can change my energetic signature and I could invite that curiosity and those kinds of questions into the conversation. And maybe it's very, very similar to the way they acted 2 days ago. But if I don't leave room for the possibility that there's a different response or a different reaction, then I've set them up.
No, this is
I've
really
set up the whole
interesting.
there's no room there. Right?
This is very, very interesting. And on the flip side of, you know, going into a conversation with strangers and not having expectations of them, they also don't have any of you. And so often we can be freer and more ourselves than we might be with somebody who we are already in a relationship that causes us to feel inhibited or, you know, shut down or, you've seen people who are in a relationship with someone and it seems like that other person they're with is just terrible, and then that person goes off and has a lovely relationship till the end of time with another person, right? And it's the dynamic itself can set people up for how they're being, right, in that particular dynamic, like Kat was talking about earlier. So that's
right. And it's interesting to see how people are allowed to be, and that includes yourself. Like how do you allow yourself to be?
Yeah, I'm loving this conversation.
No, I mean, I really, the idea that, oh, well, people don't change. You know what to expect. You know that rigidity, and that's everything that is not what we do. One thing that caught my attention a few months ago, there's somebody in this program that used to put a number at the end of their name. It was like 2.0, and then it was 3.0, and then a little while later it was 4.0.
I remember that.
And I found myself super curious about what changed this week. What was the difference this week that got from a 2.0 to a 3.0? And I was intrigued, and I had questions, and it could be anything. It was like always a surprise. What have you changed? What have you done differently? And the indicator that something had shifted was this number at the end. And I thought, oh, giving that grace to people in my inner circle to allow for maybe they're a 2.0 today somewhere in some area of their life. I don't know. I'm not living their life. I'm living near it. I interact with it daily, but it's not my life, and it's not my view, and it's not my experience. So just keeping the curiosity open and keeping that childlike interest and openness and willingness to accept however they present. Maybe they decided to sit and rest in a particular version of themselves for a while. That's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
But I don't know that until I ask questions, right?
Maybe someone decided to take a master class and get out of bed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
There
Yeah.
can be a new you every day.
All kinds of things can be different.
I have to take my leave. I forgot I was supposed to meet somebody in 15 minutes.
Well, it's been so nice having you
Well,
here.
I don't want to leave.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who has anything they'd like to share? I know Corey is so good at making sure he's connecting in with everyone. So I'm channeling my inner Corey here.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Sorry, please. And I apologize. I just want to say thank you so very much, all of you.
Thank
I
you,
learned so
Kat.
much.
We love it
Thank
when you're
you.
here.
Oh, thank
Come
you.
often.
Mwah. I
Come
will.
often.
Take care, everybody. Love you all.
Love you
Thank
too, Kat.
you.
You, Kat.
So
Mwah.
sweet. Anybody else before we wrap up here?
Tamara, Rebecca, Legita.
Any insights, any ahas, any triggers, anything? Well,
Hi,
hi, Lisa.
I was just listening, and I'm those people that I don't like questions and I don't like to answer.
Yeah.
I always having trouble when, going through all this resistance or something at the beginning, especially. I always think, oh, I don't have answer. I don't know how to answer it. I don't know how to do it. And when someone starts questioning me, I always shut them down. I say, oh, okay, I'm not answering those questions or something. I don't know, it's just maybe my ego or something that I think that whatever I say, it's right and it's correct. That's what it is. And always when someone's trying, like questions to me, like it's more like controlling. And for me, it's more personal. I do have this resistance inside of me. I don't know why, but it really feels me uncomfortable, out of my comfort zone, all this, questions and everything like that.
I totally get that. And that was one of the things, you know, when we were talking about asking the questions, like we can ask questions. We don't need the answer. We don't. It's not our life. But if you think about any of this, so online coaching, for example, a lot of the online coaching, we just ask questions, we just throw stuff out there and you can answer, not answer. I mean, my lenses call every Monday. I throw all kinds of questions out there. I don't need the answer, but maybe it would help you if your brain looked for the answer, right? So I find that hesitation and that expectation sometime with coaching, it's like, well, I don't, or going to a counselor, or going to whatever. I don't want to tell, that's none of their business, right? It's like, I don't want to answer those questions. So that's one of the things that I love about the online coaching and hearing the questions. I can write my own answers down on my own paper and I can look at that, and that's plenty helpful. Because if the right questions are asked and I can think about them, all we're doing with the questions is not always to get the back and forth, but it's to get a different point of view or a different filter, a different way of seeing things so that you can be free to do what you want to do, right?
Yes, and then it triggers your mind.
Do I ask really, really prying questions, Ligita?
No, it's just in general at all. I'm just don't feel like, you know, the questioning. It starts me questioning. I don't know. I'm not answering those questions. Especially annoying when you know, sometimes you want to join the group or something, and they start those kind of questions. I was just, you know, I am not answering those questions, and I just that's why I'm curious why others, even people, put those questions. Like, you know, when I think some of these questions, it could be very personal. And I think what you know, the way you have to earn people's trust and respect before you start, even if you ask those personal questions or you would like to answer, because to me, the trust, it's a big deal. And that's, you know, but, you know, I like this online coaching. Yes, it's when we're doing, you know, magnetic mind and others, it triggers your mind to think and answer, okay, what is going on, what it is. It's different, you know, when you have other people, like, you know, which you don't really know or something, start asking questions, and especially personal questions.
No, we talked a little about rapport building earlier. I was thinking next week we're going to be talking about resistance, and I learned a little bit before I got into this world. I started I gained a perspective about welcoming resistance rather than resisting resistance, being curious about resistance, allowing it, and that sort of thing. That we'll get more into that next week, and I'm really excited to dig into that, because we can just be irritated and resistant, or
no, you know,
what else?
Personal achievement, you know, I don't have any issues. You know, I accept what it is. I know what I have to do it, and I don't think that I have resistance. I'm doing, you know, the way I see it, you're doing or you don't, you know. That's it. You know, your resistance, what? You're lazy, or you just, you know, or you don't want to do it at that moment. It's not something, you know, that's how I look at it. It's not something that, that sometimes that's what I'm like. Yesterday I was saying, I get curious when all these people, when you know, when you read the comments, they have all these kind of things and resistance. But you know, when we here in magnetic mind, the way I think, okay, we should be at this point, you know, that we are happy with our lives and whatever is going on. You just accept and, you know, you create what you would like. You changing what you don't like, not changing, but recreating. And, but that's why I don't really see it as a resistance. No, it's just the way, I don't know, the way you look at us. That's what I think.
I agree with that. One thing that I would say, the word resistance, I mean, that's a bit of a catch thing. So, but for me, let's say, it's just what's in your way. And so I'm carrying on my life and everything's fine. And I live in the suburbs with my house, my kids and my husband and my car. And I want to stop working. What's in my way? My house is in my way. Or, you know, my financial needs to maintain that lifestyle is in my way. But maybe I don't want to leave my job. Maybe I want to get a promotion. What's in my way? I need another car. It depends on the choice, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily resistance is it doesn't necessarily have to be some big psychological thing. It's like, maybe what's in my way is I'm scared to give it a shot, or I'm nervous because I never did it before, or I need more skills, or whatever it is. But the minute I make a new choice, all the pieces get rearranged a little bit. You don't always build on top of. Sometimes you need to let go of something to have the other thing. And then it's like, oh, okay, how bad do I want it? And for me, I need all of the questions to say, okay, no, I'm choosing that. That is what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm choosing it. And that means a lot of things. And I'm just going to take a deep breath and do it anyway, because I want it that bad. Right. But the minute I shift my focus to wanting a different choice, those things aren't issues there. The resistance is directly attached to what you chose. And sometimes you're happy with what you have. It's not that you want it's not that you're dissatisfied or unhappy with your life. Maybe you just want to do a different thing, try a different flavor. And that's going to require rearranging, and there might be some things in your way. And then unpacking all of that, right?
And I agree. That's what I got this aha moment when I was on the Chris training, and someone's asked the question, and you know, always, you know, how to know that your true choice, and that is this, and that's what it is. I got this. Okay, that's what in your way. It's not really, you know, that resistance. You don't want to do it, but what's in your way? Okay, why? And that makes more sense rather what is in your way rather than resistance. I don't resist to get to the point where I want to go, but is there something that in the way to get from point A to point B that, and you know, it's not like they posing like a problems or whatever. What I see more like challenges.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And what was going last week through the session 6, and it's like, with your solutions to your problems, because we're not coming up, you know, the problems, and we're not solving the problem. But the way I say it, like, it's all just challenges, and it's nothing wrong with it, you know. And we're not, we're at this point, okay, that's what I need to kind of get through this challenge, or go, you know, around, or whatever I need to do, how to get through it. But I don't see it from the problem solution solving.
Exactly.
This is also interesting. This is a little shift, a little off topic, but I feel like it just keeps coming up. The idea that what looks like resistance can be many different things. So I can get really irritated if if I'm being subjected to something that I just know isn't the right fit for me. And it could seem like I'm resisting it, but I just know it's not the right fit for me. You know, I noticed this with my son. He's in 6th grade and he's in this distant learning program, and they're giving him these very babyish, so, you know, little cartoony videos to watch and answer questions. And it's not a way that he's going to learn. And he knows that, and he gets irritated. He's not thinking that, he's just irritated by it. And it looks like he's not willing to do it or doesn't want to do it, but it's absolutely not helping him to grow and thrive and learn, right? It's just irritating him. So it's not a big issue. It's not a psychological problem. It's not, you know, buried trauma. It's just, that is not efficient for me. And I know it, you know, so sometimes we can get hits of things. It's just information, you know.
So having it called resistance is a good encompassing word, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's an external thing. Sometimes it's a circumstance. Sometimes it's a mindset. Sometimes it's a capability. Sometimes it's your environment. There's all the agents of all the levels of change that it could be. But when you unpack resistance, then we find out what it is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like, I don't know, it's just not happening. This is just not happening. I thought I wanted to do it and it's not happening. I don't know why. And that just not happening, or I'm always feeling like I'm just never getting anywhere. I go and I go and I go and I'm never getting anywhere. Unpack why. What is that? And sometimes it's just a circumstance or an environment, and the obvious action is obvious.
Yeah.
Just move it out of your way.
Just
Or
something
maybe that thing you thought you wanted isn't even really what you wanted. You know, maybe you don't really want it. That's a possibility. Maybe that's what's your resistance, is that you changed your mind. That's fine. But it could also be all of these little psychological mechanisms too. And there could be something holding you back instead of being in your way. I can't bring myself to do it. I just can't make myself do the thing I need to do, or whatever it is. And so we can unpack like the external or the circumstance, and then we unpack like, is there anything psychological that's holding you from going ahead and doing a thing? But it's always in relation to the life you want to live, what your choice is today. And sometimes people change their mind.
This
Don't
is
want it
great.
anymore.
Susan?
That's allowed.
Susan has her hand up.
I would just like to ask Legita, because I admire her pragmatic clarity. I think that is a beautiful thing. I would love to have more of it, actually. But does that clarity still allow you to accept and understand the lack of clarity that many of us feel as a coach? Because, and I'm sure it does, but that would be where one would question one's own vibration in relation to what you're trying to achieve as a coach and what's presented you. Has that made any sense?
It does, but you know, I don't lack clarity. That's where I got my clarity when I enrolled in the Magnetic Mind certification. That was my wake up moment and awakening where I'm going and what I want to be in my life and where I need to go. I have maybe, you know, I have some environmental environment issues, you know, around me. That's what's right now is just holding me. There's some issues, relationship, you know, the family. But that's what it is. But That's what to me more than anything else right now, I think.
I don't know that I made myself clear, but yes, thank you very much, Lagita, for speaking your
No,
truth.
you're clear. It's just the clarity that, you know, for me right now, you know, I really know what I want to do. And I know my next step, but sometimes I just get distracted. I know I call it like procrastination. It's just nice word to being lazy. And I always associate everything. Okay, you do it or you don't do it. You know, there's no, you know, the excuses. Yeah, I can find 100 excuses why I'm not doing it, but that's not making anything better. I'm still not doing it. And the excuses allows me what? Procrastinate. You know, I always use like my will of power to get what I want and where I'm going. Because if I know what I want, that's where I'm going. And you just do it.
How does that affect your coaching when you are with others that aren't wired the same way?
I don't know, I haven't coached yet, but that's why I see not all people like me. You know, these people, like, you know, it's, you know, not that many. And I know people are different. And I see my son, he's 13, he's already know what he wants to do in his life. He's already have this, you know, the past, what he wants to do. I said, good, you start seeing it, you know, so I see it and you will see, you know, it shows up. I knew what I want to do when I was in 7th grade, the same way. And I always know what I want to do. I always have clarity and everything showed up in my life. But I understand that when I was start, you know, in those Facebook groups and, you know, in the coaching, you know, others listening, that's where, okay, not all people the same. Some people, they do have issues, they do have problems, they are sick and, you know, unhealthy, but other people, they don't. It's not all of them like me, and they don't think the same way like I do. It's, you know, that's the compassion and understanding. That's where I'm coming from, you know.
You can practice on me any day, Lagita.
You know, I'm listening to this, and some people know exactly what they want to do, and they've got their 5-year plan, their 10-year plan. They know who they are and what they want. And they don't always know how they want to feel, or they don't always know exactly how, you know, how to line up that satisfaction or that fulfillment with the tangible stuff. And sometimes it's a different way. I know what I'd love, I just don't know how to make it real. And that's a different side. Or I really know how I feel, and I know how I want to feel, and I don't know how to get there. You know, there's all of these different pieces, and it's like your passions, your feelings, making it real, having the knowledge and the awareness, and getting those lined up. And there's often one of the 3 that's a little weaker than, you know, one of the 4 that's a little weaker. You know, 3 out of 4 is pretty good. But is it really, really?
What are the 4?
Your feelings,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
so emotion,
Yeah.
your passion, your material, and your knowledge and yeah, your knowledge and your truth.
Okay.
Those are actually the 4 suits in tarot.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the 4 balance, the 4 elements, right? The earth, air, fire, water.
Okay.
And usually one of them is less clear, and people have a tendency towards, okay, I'm very practical, I'm very matter of fact, and I totally know okay, maybe not so comfortable swimming around in feelings, or really comfortable swimming around in feelings, but don't ask me to have a fire in my belly over something. I don't know what to do, what. no, like I'm good over here. I'll make cookies and you go get excited about the thing. And I love that for you. But somebody actually taking charge and going after something just for the love of it. So maybe not so adventurous, right? Or people who just don't know what to say. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they need to go learn or what kind of skills or what that's the swords, the truth, the knowledge, and to be able to speak it and communicate what they're doing. So there's usually one of those areas that's a little weaker than the other, but there's some kind of little weird, probably some programming glitch from way back when in the autopilot that has one of those things a little bit on a loop. And isn't it fun to be able to unpack it just enough to say, ah, there it is, unhooked. Let's go now. You
I
know,
love that.
what do you want to do?
That's so true. You know, I do have issues with my feelings. That's for sure. That's why. That's why I ignore everything. If I don't want to hear it, I just simply ignore
it. Mad, sad, glad, and bad.
Like, I need to work on my feelings. That's for sure.
But it's like, then it's like, okay, what if? So here's a hypothetical, Lakita. You know exactly what you want. You know exactly what it needs to look like. You're going to go do it. And oh shit. It requires you to be in your feelings. You're going to have feelings about it. You're going to have to tell somebody about your feelings. How bad do you want it? Right?
Like
and then
always like just suck it up and move on.
Right? And then it's like, what? Then it becomes a little exercise in, can it be okay? Could it be safe to do that? Could it be, everything holding somebody back, or, if that's slowing down the progress of the thing you want, and it's right there. And all you have to do is say something, but you can't talk because you never tell anybody anything. You never told anybody off in your whole life. And now the only thing standing in your way is stepping up and speaking it. Maybe it's that. And they just can't. They can't. And it's right there. And you're like, okay, you can do one of these processes. You can work like that. That could be like some little hang up that makes all the difference in having the thing or being able to do the thing. Somebody who is like, I really want to be able to do something, but I need to be more empathetic and be able to, like, I really want to work in a retirement home and help people write their memoirs, but I don't really care. I mean, I want them to be able to have that, but like, I don't personally need to care. Do I need to care? And then it's like, yeah, you do. So where's the resistance to stepping into who you need to be for whatever you thought of? Because there's a reason you want it. So the hang up is always interesting.
This whole conversation is just so intriguing. Now I keep getting stuck on this idea of procrastination and willpower and just pushing through, and yes and no and so many things. I remember years ago, I remember thinking about when we use willpower, it was, the initial idea came up in a religious environment, where someone was being asked to just do something, and then clearly the person was having trouble doing something or changing something. Maybe it was to do with an addiction, or maybe it was to do whatever it is, whether it's weight loss or whether it's eating well, or something that you're struggling with, or if it's tiny and it seems like you're just being lazy and not getting up off the couch and doing something. For me, I'm all about maximizing. And one of my things I think about a lot is I want no resistance in the way. There might be a little, there might be a lot.
Not enough to stop you though, not enough to stop you.
Right. And then, yes, we can build our will and push through and make ourselves, right? But what if we didn't have to? What if there was no resistance, right? So the less resistance there is, the more likely we are to just move forward with such ease that it isn't even a thought. So whether we think there's any resistance there or not, maybe there is, and maybe it could be easier, and maybe we wouldn't have to push as hard. So I think I remember thinking about this in relation to a child too, and doing work. And I remember seeing some program that was talking about kids, and I think the name of the program was "There's No Such Thing as Lazy." And that really intrigued me because I thought the opposite, right? But
You were pretty sure there's such thing as lazy.
yeah, I was
Right.
Yeah, I was pretty sure. And sometimes as a parent, you're pretty sure that is lazy. What's happening over there is lazy, right? But what if it's not? And what if
But
there's
it's
a
not.
resistance that could?
It's
Yeah.
just for me just an excuse not to do things. Okay, my son, he tells me something he doesn't want to do. Oh, I'm lazy to do it here. I know when I was a child, we had to help our parents and we were working, if you're not doing, you're lazy. There's no such a thing, that's why I think people they have when we, raising our children now when I see around, they have all these excuses, on the world, why you can't do this, why you don't want to do. It is, I think it's just an excuse not to do it. It's just like a softened way not to do it.
It absolutely is. But here's the question then, Ligita. It's totally an excuse. Just like procrastination is like the kitchen drawer of excuses. You can throw anything in the procrastination drawer. Nobody needs to know anything more than it's procrastination. Or I'm just going to call it the lazy bucket. I'm lazy. It's an excuse. But why? Why is somebody being lazy? What's going on there? Why is somebody procrastinating? Is there something else happening and most interestingly for me, and I'm the most intrigued, is there some little autopilot programming idea, some thought that got installed at 2 years old, 3 years old, back in the whenever? Is there some little piece of programming that's just slowing shit down? And you get into any kind of software or any kind of other processes, and it's like, well, it's just always been like that. And you're like, wait a minute, that's the thing that's slowing this down. Oh, well, what if that's what lazy is? What if that is what procrastination is? What if that is what apathy is? I don't care. Why not?
So see, there's an
you?
interesting
Is
point
there a
too.
thing?
Yeah,
There's a thing.
that's huge too, because there's the thing that you're doing that you're procrastinating or not doing, because you're procrastinating. And then there's, with a lot of kids, maybe there isn't a lot of attachment to end result. Maybe there isn't a lot of motivation because there isn't the other end of it, that feels good, that's exciting, that matters. A lot of times I think with kids, they aren't particularly excited about things. They aren't particularly connected to who they are or to their gifts or to things that are important. And so daily things just seem like drudgery instead of exciting things to move towards, or if they have such exciting things to move toward and they know they need to do their homework in order to have this in their life, well, then they're much more likely to do that anyway, even if it's not, fun or thrilling. But if there's, a bigger picture and motivation and goal that matters, if that end result is grown and bigger or really deeply connected to. So it's like the whole puzzle, the whole picture, the whole dynamic is important.
The whole we were talking about.
Hi, Corey. Corey's back.
The question, and you're asking these questions, and it's about owning it, and I go back to thinking about, okay, a little child is told I'm thinking about getting you a puppy, and now this kid's got a puppy immediately, and they're running around, and it's going to sleep here, and I'm making dishes for it, and I'm gonna sew a little suit for my puppy dog, and this little puppy's gonna go walk in here, and I got a leash, and they're on it. That dog is theirs, and they can feel the emotion of that end result. When kids were participating in taking care of the family home, there was vested interest in doing that. That home was going to be theirs one day. That was it was a family interest in everybody pitching in and everybody going to benefit. And sometimes, why should they care? It's not as obvious what's in it for somebody that's procrastinating. Maybe what's their end result is not as obvious. Maybe it's someone else's choice. Maybe there's a belief or an idea or a something. And that is where I find it so interesting to unpack, because it could be so very many things, but it always looks like the one thing. It looks like procrastination. But maybe it's because somebody believes something about themselves or someone else, or they made a decision, or somebody broke a promise, or there was a family thing, or maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's just that they need to rearrange their life, or maybe they, it could be anything. And so it's such a big label to put lazy on something when it could literally be anything. It's like the diagnosis of unknown origin.
I have a question.
I don't know.
Hi, Corey. What's your question?
Well, I see that we're still recording. So have we buttoned up our episode, or are we still broadcasting live to the universe?
Very good question, Corey. That is a very good question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Did we say goodbye? Did we wrap it up?
No. No, we didn't. We kept talking. Corey, would you like to wrap it up?
Really good conversation, but why don't we leave the unpacking of resistance and all of the talk around resistance and unpacking it and psychological stuff. We'll catch you next week for that.
Right on.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a great conversation. Thank you for drawing out so much, you two, especially Lakita and Susan and everyone else who's here. This was so much fun.
I can't wait to
Or you're gonna have to watch the replay.
Yeah, I'm excited to get caught up. I had to pop out for the last hour. So
Corey had a whole coaching session.
I did. Well, thanks everybody for coming to Let's Talk. Let's go.